Hello, this is Roseville Mayor Dan Rowe. I wanted to take a moment to thank Arts Roseville and the Ramsey County Library System for their featured artist program and for adapting to our current times by taking the program online in order to reach a wider audience. I believe the arts are important to us both as ways to express the feelings and emotions of our lives and our times, but also to find peace and meaning and hopefully understanding through creative expression and the enjoyment of that expression by others. I hope everyone gets a chance to connect with the Featured Artist Program and to appreciate and support the great local talent we have.
Welcome to the Arts Roseville Featured Artist Program, a partnership of Arts Roseville and the Ramsey County Library-Roseville branch. We are so grateful for this partnership. My name is Eden Bart, and I am on the board of Arts Roseville, a local nonprofit organization with the mission of advancing arts, creativity, and community in Roseville. We're thrilled that we can continue to feature local artists through the Featured Artist Programming, virtually for now, and we're so happy that you're joining us. Enjoy the program.
Hi, my name is Jansen Bindman.
And I'm Jevin Bindman, and we are board members of Arts Roseville.
Our featured artist today is the owner of Mosaic on a Stick in St. Paul.
She collaborated with Arts Roseville and the Roseville Library on the Unity Tower, located in the Children's Garden.
And has been working on a 5-year project with Minneapolis Parks for the survivors of sexual violence.
She's also a world traveler and community builder.
Please welcome Lori Greene.
Plus, when I went to art school, this is not what I studied. I don't know if that would have made it better. This is the 5th panel of the Memorial to Survivors of Sexual Violence, and I am starting with the red woman. She's kind of the central figure in all of the pieces. And I am trying to figure out how to create her face out of a minimal amount of colors and trying to make sure it's going to read. So I'm just cutting out pieces, and I'm going to take lots of pictures until I have it right. And my assistants will be here soon, and I can ask them too. Community piece that my assistant Juliet and I created. We handed out each square to different regulars of ours and gave them minimal instructions. The instructions were they needed to outline in red and fill in the solid sections in one color. Some people followed the instructions very well, some people did not. And then we put it all together.
Lori, thank you so much again for joining us for the Featured Artist Talk. We're just going to jump right in. So what did childhood look like for you artistically, and were you exposed to mosaic or other types of art as a child?
I was exposed to a lot of African art. My parents had a lot of carvings of figures that they had friends who traveled in Africa, so we had a lot of those around the house. And we had a lot of prints of artists like Picasso and Kathy Kultowitz, and we had Toulouse-Lautrec wallpaper in my basement.
Wow.
I knew it was Toulouse-Lautrec until I was much older, but so there was art everywhere. I don't think I really thought about it, but I was definitely surrounded by a lot of art.
Were either of your parents artists, either by profession or as a hobby?
No, but they really appreciated art. My dad in particular, I think my dad really wanted me to be an artist. No, but my parents were activists. So that was my main influence from them, was that my mother was a peace activist and my father was a civil rights activist.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. And
Do you see any connection between the art world and the activist world, and do you use any of that in your work?
Yeah, my work is very political, although it's not so overtly political. I think just being a woman of color, making art in our time period is a political act. The fact that I have been doing this for 30 years is a political act. And I use it to talk about a lot of issues all the time. Sometimes they're, like the piece that's right behind me was in a show called Bring Her Home, which was about Native women who disappeared. And I do a lot of work around that.
Do you have a favorite topic that you like to explore creatively, or do you kind of take what's going on in the world and then channel that through your art?
I don't know that I have a favorite topic, but I'm often asked by nonprofits to do pieces that relate to trafficking and violence against women. I would definitely not say those are my favorite topics. They're
For sure.
painful. I'm working on a memorial right now for survivors of sexual assault, and it's 5 different panels, and we've actually been working on it for 5 years, just the process of having this come to life and getting it approved, raising the money, and now the building, and then we have a pandemic and all of that.
Right. Gosh.
Yeah.
Can you talk about the steps that you have to go through in order to get something that is more on the political side to be approved by like a bigger either governmental party or nonprofit party, and just some of the things that you deal with?
Well, fortunately for me, for this project, I did not have to do the approval, but I was part of the process the whole time. Another young woman came to me and asked me if I would be the artist for this project. And in the beginning, it was just her and I. And she did all the talking. She's amazing. And we went to Minneapolis parks and talked to them and tried to convince them that this was a really good idea. And they bought it, which is amazing. But it meant that we had to keep going back. We had to go back every 3 months for years and reminding them. And as the board would change and as people came aboard, it was a constant, incredible process. And I mainly was the cheerleader and showing images, and she did the talking, and we ended up with an amazing team of women architects who worked with us to make this come into reality. Well, we're almost there. Yeah.
Is there a date that it's going to be unveiled, or is that not?
Officially, the date was last weekend, but it is now, I think, October 4th, and it won't be live anymore. It'll be online. I think only 30 people can be there.
Sure.
Okay.
And then we'll have an unveiling, and people will be able to go there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is really amazing, and I'm really excited about it and terrified and everything.
Which park is it at?
It's going to be in Bloom Island in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Northeast Minneapolis, right on the river. It's a beautiful, really beautiful place.
You obviously put a lot of your soul into this project specifically, but even when we were doing the Unity Tower for the library, I could tell that you had a connection with your pieces. Do you mind talking about, like, either if you call it spirituality or just like the soulfulness that you put into your art and what that means to you?
Yeah. My work is a spiritual practice, although it doesn't belong to any particular religion or necessarily an ethnic group, but it's mine. I try to be very real about everything that I do, and I don't do things that don't touch me in my heart, which is, it's a lot. Not everybody works that way, and that's what I do publicly. And so when I am working on a piece, I try to put as much of my heart into it as possible, and get other people to buy into it so that they're also being as real as they can be. And then when we put the piece, where it's supposed to go, I often have some sort of prayer going on, thanking the ancestors and the earth and everyone that guides me through this. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
So going back to your the beginning of your career, when did you start thinking of yourself as an artist and decide to pursue a life as an artist?
Well, first I was pre-med.
Wow.
So I was pre-med for a few years, and then I decided to go to art school because I wasn't sure that I really liked the way the medical world worked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think probably not long after I graduated from art school, then I started to believe that I was an artist. And been pretty much nonstop working ever since. And it was 1988 when I graduated.
And did you come back to Minnesota right away, or?
I came back to Minnesota, and then I left again for a while. Went back to California, then I came back to Minnesota. Then I went to Maryland. Then I went to Mexico. Yeah. But I always come back because Minnesota's the greatest. I am totally Minnesotan. Love Minnesota.
And I know in your bio on your website, you said that you studied textiles. How did that translate into mosaic on a stick and studying mosaics?
Well, I think because textile is so heavily process driven, it's all about the process. And I was a weaver in particular. I love the process of weaving. I still love the process of weaving. I don't do it anymore. Those two are the same thing. And then I incorporate a lot of the patterns that I used when I was doing textiles, because I studied how patterning created language among cultures, and how neighboring groups of people could convey different bits of information by the patterns that they created in the clothing they wore, or the teepees that they set up, or the rugs that they wove. They were all, that wasn't just beautiful decorative stuff, it was all information. And so I use a lot of that in the work that I do. And sometimes I read a lot about textiles constantly, but sometimes I just make stuff up. Because it's like, oh, I really like the way that looks, and I don't really know what it means. But
do you have an example of a pattern that that communicates something that you can share with us?
I can show you a couple pieces. So there's a bunch of different patterns going on in here. And her face is three-dimensional. And then these are definitely older pieces, like 10 years older. This one is based on a woman that I met when I was traveling in Ghana. And there's not much pattern in her, but she has this basket on her head. When I met her, she had a table that was 6 feet long that she was balancing on the top of her head.
Oh my gosh.
She had a baby on her front and a toddler.
Oh no.
Yeah, she stopped to talk to me because she thought I was amazing. I don't know why. And I was like, what? Look at you.
Oh my god.
And then here's one with some kind of quilt patterns in it. And I do a lot of fused glass, so I do a lot of drawing. This one, I don't know if you can see it because of the light and dark, but
Very cool.
And my kids are often a part of my pieces as well. Less so now than when they were young, but they used to always be in my work. So.
Oh yeah.
Both for good and for bad.
That makes a lot of sense that you would find that spiritual connection in your work.
And it's actually been used pretty much everywhere in the world, anywhere things got broken.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to waste things, and if you have this beautiful bowl that you've been using to feed yourself with for years and then it breaks, people reuse those materials a lot. So there have been mosaics all over the world. What we know about most of the ones that come from Europe, but when I was living in Mexico, there's so many mosaics, turquoise and jade embedded in metal. Mind-blowing.
Yeah. So how did you decide to open a mosaic business? And what are the difficulties of being an artist but also being a businesswoman at the same time?
So I opened the studio, one, because I couldn't find any mosaic materials anywhere. So, this was back before people ordered stuff online. And so I was desperate for orange and red tile. So I thought, I'm sure I'm not the only person who needs this. So I decided I should open it. That's really a foolish reason to open a store. And also I wanted to create a space that people could come in and make art that didn't have any art training and
might feel afraid otherwise. And I just wanted people to feel invited, that they could come in at any time and make work. And also, I don't know where that idea came from. Owning a business, for me, I'm not a great business person. I am really an artist. I work about, normally, not in pandemic times, 60 hours a week. And probably 25% is devoted to the business and the rest is devoted to art. And then I'm constantly thinking about the art when I'm not at work too. So I'm always researching.
Right.
I don't know. It's not very wise, but
You have to be
doesn't
true to
matter.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever come in with a project and it just sparked something for you that maybe you hadn't thought about, or the way that they were approaching materials, just because maybe they were a novice? That
Yeah, definitely. People have used materials in a way that I have never thought of before. I think I am definitely influenced by what other people do. It's exciting to me to see and encourage other people to do work. I do remember we used to do, I would like to do it again, these free days where people could come in, as many people. Oh, back in the old days when you could have a lot of people together. Come in and make art, and they just had to bring their own surface, and we supplied all the materials. And I remember the first time we did it, we had 200 people come in over the course of the day. It was really beautiful. It was a spiritual experience. It started out with this group of women. They were sisters. They came in singing.
wow.
And they had beautiful voices, and they sang for like half an hour. They sang. It was really something. And then just people just kept coming in, and we never ran out of supplies. It was that loaves and fishes sort of thing where they just kept filling up on their own. I don't know how. And all this work was created, and I kept going around and talking to people and asking them about their work. And there were lots of things that I had never seen done before that blew me away.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope we can do that again one day.
Yeah, definitely. So how do you draw inspiration from your Native and African backgrounds in your work?
I think, well, partly it's that I'm always doing research, but also it's just so much a part of me. I was looking at that question thinking, how do I decipher that? Because that is who I am. It's always been who I am. I've always been surrounded by the knowledge, the ancestors, the work, I don't know, it's just there. I don't know how it's like I don't know how you take something that is in you and parse it out.
So your parents were very, they wanted you to know where you came from and wanted to celebrate that.
Yeah, well, and because my father was a civil rights activist, you know, there was a lot of trauma. I don't think there were a lot of things that my dad didn't want me to know about, but you know, we were shot at when I was a kid. We had all told amounts of violence. My mom went and found an apartment for us to live in, and then they wouldn't let us move in because we were colored, and so those are just part of my life.
I think it's amazing that your parents were so involved in that, and then through you and your creativity, I feel like you're such a positive person, and you talk about wanting all these different people from all walks of life to come into your store and just have this creative experience. It's how do you experience those traumas as a child and carry that into such a positive, I want to create community through art and like kind of flip it to a positive thing?
I think I come from really positive people. I think that being an activist is actually really positive, despite all the pain and the trauma. That to be an activist, you have to be optimistic. You have to believe that you can create change. And so I think, I know my grandparents on both sides were really positive people, and there was a lot of influence there. I, one of my grandfathers in particular was always about connecting people, and he's a major influence on what kind of person I am. He never met a stranger. He was the most friendly man.
Hmm.
If I walked down the street with my grandpa, we met everybody that on the block. Everybody we walked by, we would know their name and their story.
Hmm.
And I'm a pretty introverted and shy person, but I am really interested in people's stories. I care a great deal about people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use models as sources for your artwork, and do you feel like you're able to get their story into the artwork?
I do feel like I get their story in many ways. Maybe not. I don't use I'm not a realist artist. But when I do community art in particular, there's so many stories that we talk about during the course of working that I feel like those stories become integrated into the piece.
Mm-hmm.
A number of years ago, I made this piece for a restaurant that was geared towards training homeless people in cooking and restaurant skills, so that they could get off the street. And I used all broken dishes to create this piece, and a lot of people built the piece. And when I would go into the restaurant, people would tell me these walls speak. And so many people told me that they could hear all of these stories coming off the walls and the mosaic. It was really something. So it's working somehow. I don't know how, but I know that I know I've been places in the world where I have touched things or been near other people's art, and that work really spoke to me.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that there was so much feeling behind it, and I guess that's what I'm trying to do with my own work.
Do you find that you enjoy when you get to do more of that community project, or do you enjoy a little bit more doing something like the work behind you? I think you said that was an individual project.
Yeah, I need to do them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, during the shutdown, I realized how much I really needed people. It was I could come into the studio every day, but I couldn't work every day because I needed to have the interaction that I normally have with people. I have 3 assistants that I love. They're incredible people, and they really feed me. And then I have, 25 regulars that come here, and then just how many people who are just regular customers. But all of their stories feed me. All of our interactions. We rarely have just a nothing conversation. It's almost always really deep and really real. And there's a lot of crying here.
Oh, I bet.
It's really funny. I am not a crier. I do not like crying personally. I'm not against crying. But a lot of people cry. Yeah,
Has this
a lot tell me everything.
has this extended stay-at-home time given you an opportunity to work on something that you've been wanting to work on, or maybe something new?
I have been playing in my little home studio with printmaking, which I used to do in art school 1,000 years ago. So I've been doing some monoprints and just kind of playing around with carving, and yeah. So that has been kind of fun.
Mhm.
I mean, it is fun. It's just a little lonely, and I don't know. I'm not sure about it yet.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm kind of creating a small collection of stuff in case I'm assuming he will probably shut down again in the winter.
Well, it seems like Mosaic, maybe even more than a lot of the visual arts, is a inherently community project. It's not meant for one person to do by themselves. Is that
Oh, I don't know. I think it works really well for both.
okay?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely process driven, so it's slow and labor intensive. But I don't know. It works well for both.
How do you decide the size of the material that you're going to use for specific things? Like, I'm just looking at that mosaic that you have behind you. It looks like you have different sizes, different shapes for like the trees versus the sky versus the snow. How do
Yeah.
you think about that, or do you just kind of go as you create?
It looks like it was easy.
I don't know. Those shadows look really tough, Lori.
I'm constantly laying things out and trying them over and over again. I take a lot of pictures. Right now, the piece that I'm working on right now, so I'm embedding the pattern into the clothing that this woman is wearing, and I have trying to decide what that pattern is exactly and what it means. And so I just keep laying out over and over again and cutting it and changing the size and scale. And sometimes I know right away, but usually it's just a lot of labor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you like to lay out the whole thing, or do you like to just take chunks?
I usually only lay it out until I know what I'm doing. And then once I know what I'm doing, then I cut and glue the entire time. So I can cut piece to go once I feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So how many different colors are in the sky?
I know, I'm looking at the sky and I'm like,
how many different colors are in there? And it's I can tell that it's a kind of a bluish gray, but there's looks like there's pinks
a lot.
and whites.
There's definitely depth in there.
Yep. Yeah.
Or even the trees. I mean, you can like see the bark. That's
Yep.
pretty cool.
There's never enough color. That's what I'm telling you. That's why I opened this place, because there's never enough color. I'm constantly needing more tile, more color. It's unlike paint where there's just billions of colors of paint, or you can mix them. I can't mix.
Right.
Oh, that's so true.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about creating your own tile? I don't even know what that process would look like, so I don't know if that's a silly question or not, but.
No, I have. Yes. It's a whole nother conundrum. I did ceramic tile for a while, but I kept making them into their own pieces. So I wasn't making them into something to cut up. And I do make glass tile, and again, often it's its own piece, or it's something that I'm going to use later and embed it in another piece.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think about, if I could make my own color, yeah. I need a bigger studio and more supplies.
So Lori, it's been great talking with you. And before we're done, we want to. Can you tell us where people can learn more about what you're up to and where you are on social media and where your store is, all that stuff?
I have, let's see, Mosaic on a Stick is on Facebook, and it's probably Mosaic on a Stick something. Book that, I don't know.
Search Mosaic on a Stick.
Yeah, they'll find you.
Yeah.
And I have an Instagram page that I haven't been using much since the shutdown, but normally I do. And that's Lori Greene Artist, I think. Greene with an E on the end. And Mosaic on a Stick is on Snelling Avenue in St. Paul. And we're in a beautiful old Perks building.
Right.
Beautiful. And it's worth visiting in better times.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Are you hosting classes right now? Like if somebody wanted to come
No.
see you? Okay.
No classes. People can come in. We're only open. We have our new COVID hours are 10 to 4, Tuesday through Saturday. So it's quite a bit shorter than normal. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe August, September, we'll be able to open a little bit more. And we'll see. I'll see what the governor says on Thursday if we can start teaching again. I just don't want to expose anybody to anything.
For
Right.
sure.
Right.
Before we leave, I'd like to talk a little bit more about like your research, because you've mentioned it a few times that you're constantly doing research. What does that look like for you, and how do you take, like if you read something, how do you take that and implement it into the creative process?
I read a lot of books. I have an enormous collection. I'm a book addict. And I think I'm always taking notes and drawing, and I take a lot of pictures as well, just of things that influence me, like tree bark and plant. Yeah, I mean, lately, I guess since May, I've been sitting on my back porch a lot, just watching the butterflies go by and all the plants grow, and that's been really influential too. It's my favorite place to be, and it's healthy and beautiful. Yeah, I just kind of scribble, draw in my various drawing pads that I have laying around. Nothing amazing, nothing that anybody's gonna be like, oh look, when I'm dead. Work.
And then I just have one final question. So at the beginning of the interview, you said that a lot of the time you're approached for human trafficking, especially, and that you're about to hopefully reveal this 5-year project. When you work on something like that, and then COVID happens, and then you are on your back porch and you see the butterflies, do you feel like a little bit of a release because you've been working on something so heavy, and now maybe you get to work on something beautiful like a butterfly that isn't quite so intense?
Well, sort of. I mean, I'm also still working on the memorial, so it wasn't done, and so I felt the pressure of it was still with me. It's heavy work for sure. But it's also an honor to be able to do it.
Yeah. Maybe once it's up, you'll feel that release.
Yeah. I'll do something fun and silly afterwards, I'm sure.
Yeah, like a cartwheel.
I wish I could do a cartwheel. If I can still do a cartwheel. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Laura.
Yes,
This has
thank you,
been
Lori.
really great to talk with
This
you.
is amazing.
Thank you. You guys are great. I really appreciate your good questions. Very thoughtful.
Thank you.
Thanks.